Hello and welcome to our sixth episode of our Muscular Dystrophy UK podcast series, Muscles Matter. I'm Martin and I'm your podcast host for today. I work at Muscular Dystrophy UK as the Partnerships and Ambassador Engagement Manager, and I live with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. Today we're going to be looking at and discussing the incredible things our community do to support the work of our charity and to raise vital awareness of muscle wasting conditions. I'm really excited to have two great guests with us who have both been inspired to do some truly incredible things. Together, they'll share what they've done, what has inspired them along the way, how they've remained motivated, and tips to anyone wanting to do their own thing. So without further ado, I'd like to ask my guests, Carmela, Chillery-Watson, MBE, and Chris Stennett, to introduce themselves. Carmela, over to you first. Could you briefly tell us about yourself and what you've been up to?
I'm Carmela. I'm 11 years old. I live with LMNA muscular dystrophy. I've done many fundraising challenges since I was 4 years old. I've done 100-mile walks, 300-kilometer walks, bake sales, and many more.
Excellent. That's great, Carmela. I know for a fact you've done a lot more than what you've just mentioned. So that's very modest of you. Now, Chris, over to yourself. Same question. If you could just tell us a bit about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Stennett. I'm 33 years old and I've got facioscapulohumeral muscular dystrophy, also known as FSHD. I was diagnosed at 26, so we're looking at about 7 years ago now. And since then, I've been fundraising with MD UK as I've tried to take on my own challenges with marathons and an Ironman triathlon.
Great stuff. You're both really underplaying your achievements. I know you've achieved a lot more. So a bit about myself. So I'm 50 years old. I was diagnosed with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy 25 years ago, and at the time I was really angry. But I decided I need to do something about it. So myself and my wife and family started fundraising, and we are a family fund for Muscular Dystrophy UK, and we've raised tens of thousands of pounds actually. So I'm in a similar boat to you two. I was just inspired the similar way as you are. So I wanted to talk about what for you feels like some of your personal biggest achievements and any highlights you'd like to share. Whatever that looks like, whether it's achieving, getting past the finish line, hitting a certain target, or whether even if you've surprised yourself with some of the things you've done. And Carmela, we'll start with you. What do you feel are some of your biggest achievements?
I would say one of the first big challenges I did, which was a 300-kilometer walk. We had to go to 30 different locations in the UK for 30 days. So it was get up, go and do 9K in the wheelchair and 1K walk. But we went to some really beautiful places. We went to Cornwall, walked by the canal, Devon. We went to a lot of places, but it was really hard getting up every day. But it was amazing. It was amazing to see the change, to give kids like me, to give them hope and raise money for muscular dystrophy, because I hope someday there will be a treatment or a cure, anything that could help. But yeah, it was amazing, but also hard but rewarding.
Wow. I mean, fundraising, like you said, that you are doing over a period of time it can be quite relentless, can't it, on your body, and sometimes it can take its toll. And Chris, similar point. What can you tell us about some of your highlights when you've been fundraising and things that have really made you feel fantastic?
So when I was training for the Ironman, I also did the London Marathon, and that was really good being around other fundraisers who could kind of, be part of that with me, which was great. But getting over the finish line at the Ironman was definitely the biggest thing I think I've ever achieved in this space. So just to lay that out, an Ironman is a 3.8K swim, 180K bike ride, and then a full marathon after that. So the whole 42.2 kilometers. And like Carmela, it's there's a lot of training that goes into it, getting up every single day and getting on with it. And once you've got over that line and done it, it's you can't explain that feeling. It's amazing.
Yeah, and again, I think we should really, at this point, put some emphasis on the fact that we, all three of us, are living with a muscle wasting or weakening condition. So these things are extremely difficult. You're not just taking on an Ironman; you're taking on an Ironman with lived experience and living with the condition yourself. So, on that note, Chris, straight back to you. Really, what inspired you to do the Ironman and the marathon, and what inspires you to keep fundraising and keep doing these challenges? And just why?
So, I mean, for me, before I was diagnosed, I used to play rugby every weekend, and I was always in the gym, and I've always been a very active guy, and it was just something that was on my list of things to do when I retired from playing rugby. And I don't know if you've ever played yourself, but you can't really train for that kind of thing whilst you're getting beaten up every weekend. So, once I was diagnosed, yourself, when you have a muscle wasting condition, you're always a little bit paranoid about what you won't be able to do tomorrow. So I just thought, I've got to do it. And one of the things that really inspired me about it, as I shared my journey, was that other people with FSHD and other types of dystrophy were reaching out and saying, "Oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I didn't realize anybody would do this." And I've seen other people take on 10Ks and marathons who've got muscular dystrophy because they can see somebody who is doing it before them. And that helps me to keep on sharing my journey and helps me to take on new challenges, because I think everybody with a disability who does amazing things feeds into other people. And it's that give and take that kind of keeps me going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with what you said. And Carmela, what has inspired you to do all that you've done? I know you just touched on it a bit, saying that in the ideal world you would find a treatment or cure for someone, a young person like yourself. But what inspired you to keep going? Because you are relentless, Carmela. What inspires you to just keep on doing what you're doing?
What keeps inspiring me is I want to see the change. I want to see the change in the world. When I do my fundraising challenges and I see other kids being inspired to do their big dreams, like doing a big marathon or doing any sort of challenge they want to do, it makes me so happy. It's rewarding, really, and I love doing this because I just like seeing the change in the kids, to see this smile on their faces, to kind of believe that they can do what they want to do, because there is nothing stopping them. There's a will, there's a way. Everything can be adapted.
That's excellent. That's great stuff. And as always, Camilla, you always inspire me to carry on doing things. And I agree with what you've both said. And for me, it's similar to what Camilla said. If people see me doing things, then and also what Chris said, actually, when people see me doing things and they do things themselves, and actually it also inspires people that do not live with muscle wasting and weakening conditions. I'm so lucky that with the experience I've had as I've got up and started to fundraise and do certain things, family and friends have come on board and took on their own challenges, which is, I've been extremely lucky and had this sort of Midas touch effect where people get involved around me, and that's how our family fund has grown so much. But it's and it's a sort of attitude of, if I can, you can too, So we're not just hopefully we're not just inspiring our community, but others around us, So what's been your favourite thing to date? And have you got anything coming up in the future, Camilla, that you can tell us about? Any other plans?
So I'm planning, hopefully next year, to go to primary schools and share to the kids in a fun way the difficulties of people living with disabilities when they go to school, because they don't always feel inclusive. A lot of kids at schools don't know how to kind of react and be around with kids with disabilities, but in a fun way. So we would have lots of kind of blow up things and just make it really fun. So soon, probably next year now. We are planning to go to walk through all of the hospitals that treated me. There is 6. We have Great Ormond Street, Oxford, Poole Hospital, Southampton Hospital, Cambridge, and Bristol. Quite a lot. But yeah, we want to just fundraise for them and to also kind of say thank you for treating me. But again, to raise more awareness, and I'm actually quite excited to do it.
Excellent. And that's excellent. And we know that you will pioneer in that field. If you're going into schools and educating people on disability awareness, that's fantastic, because every single person can learn from people like us. The most qualified people to talk about disabilities are people with disabilities, and society doesn't know that all the time. I don't think. We find that there's so many situations, for example, in the aviation industry, where people are having meetings and people with disabilities are not invited to those meetings. So for you to go into educational settings, talk about your experience, educate people, you will definitely be a pioneer in that, Carmela. I can see it. And Chris, what about yourself? What have been your favourite things to date? And do you have any future plans, any more fundraising events or anything you could tell us about?
So I am taking a little bit of a break from fundraising events at the moment because I'm currently not living in the UK. But I've switched my triathlon game now. I'm not looking at Ironman triathlons. I'm focusing on para triathlons. So I'm hoping to get classified for the para triathlon sport in the UK next year and start racing the Super Series. Until then, I'm just supporting other people who are fundraising rather than doing it myself.
So, Chris, you talk about your marathon training and your Ironman training, and the fact that you would train for a marathon and taking on an Ironman. You obviously must have had a target to hit on Just Giving, like most people do, or similar fundraising page. How do you meet fundraising targets, and what advice could you give to anybody out there that's not quite hitting their target, and anything you could tell them to give them some help and advice?
Yeah, so I mean, firstly, just share the journey everywhere and be absolutely shameless about it, because if you think you're posting too much on social media, chances are that, people haven't seen it as much as you think they have. So just keep posting about it all the way up until the event. And after the event is when you get a big dose of your money as well. So just never stop talking about it. But outside of the fundraising targets, I'm sure you'll appreciate that everyone's training for the same marathon. Even if you do the Brighton one instead of the London one, it's only a few weeks before, and you're not the only person that people are going to see. So you're probably going to want to do something outside of just saying, I'm training for a marathon and this is why. So I did a quiz night and we raised about £900 from a quiz night, and that was because we managed to sell food at the event and we managed to do an auction, and we turned it into a bit of a community thing, and we got more money that way. I think just don't be afraid to try something a bit new and enjoy the experience, because even if you only end up raising 50, 100 quid from it, you'll probably have a lot of fun, and it all goes, every little helps.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've had similar experiences with my fundraising, where you're fundraising for an event and you end up doing more sort of little events to top up the event that you're actually going to be your major challenge. And you mentioned there about the marathon. Muscular Dystrophy UK has got a fantastic community on social media, especially on Facebook. I'll never forget, somebody once told me, actually a legendary Muscular Dystrophy UK marathon runner, Bernie Henderson, when I was talking once to the marathon group on Facebook, telling them about my challenges living with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, and the fact that I was walking many miles to many famous places, and I was walking a mile around Iffley Road track, where Roger Bannister famously broke the 4-minute mile, and I was feeling that I had imposter syndrome being amongst all these marathon runners. And Bernie said to me that everyone's challenge is subjective to their own ability. And I'll never forget that, because it made me feel so tall. And, you know, I was amongst people that were going beyond 26 miles, and I was just walking a mile, but he made me feel fantastic. So, you know, that was another piece of advice, actually, if anyone's out there fundraising, is to get on that Facebook page for Muscular Dystrophy UK Marathon Runners. It's a really great place to be. Carmela, what advice would you give to someone who's been inspired and thinking, I would like to do something?
So I would say to them, think about what you want to do first, so what type of fundraising you want to do. But anything you do will be amazing. Just have a crack at it. Maybe don't start very big, because you might get very stressed with all the planning and the fundraising, because we kind of went straight into it head on. But once you do like a small fundraising, you will find it very rewarding and amazing. And just to do any fundraising is absolutely amazing. So well done you, honestly.
That's absolutely spot on. It doesn't, you know, we're not here for perfection. We're here for real, you know, voices from our community and for other people to hear that. And Chris, same. You know, what would you say? What would you advice do you give to anybody thinking about any sort of challenge?
So, I mean, the first thing is just go for it if you've got a challenge in mind, because, you know, you'll probably do better than you're telling yourself you will. And if you're looking to fundraise, then speak to other people who you know have done fundraising, because people are more than willing to help you out. If you've got plans for like a quiz night, then chances are somebody knows a quiz master or can help you with materials. If you're planning to do a marathon, then someone can put you in touch with someone who gives you like free training tips. Just don't be afraid to say something, and I'm sure you get the help you need.
Thanks, Chris. And what I'd like to do is sort of tell people, you know, my advice would be a little piece of both of yours, actually. And that would be to, you know, touch on what Carmela said about starting small. You know, when we first started fundraising, I walked a mile when I could hardly walk at all. And I raised £1,000 on that day. And then we went on to walk many, many miles, and we're up to £350,000. So, you know, great advice, Carmela. Start small and work your way up to something big. And Chris, what you mentioned there was lean on people. You know, you have resources, and we have these people around us, like you said about a quiz master, or, you know, when we did the walk to the pub the first time, it was all about the 6 degrees of separation. You know, we're all very much in touch with somebody who will potentially be able to help us, and that's how we got a DJ for free. You know, we got some of the barbecue was put on by somebody in the local area, which made more profit when people were purchasing burgers and sausages, etc. So yeah, I would say from me, a good bit of advice would be, like Carmela said, start small and work your way up to something big. And then, like Chris said, use resources around us, you know, use the community around us, tell us what we're doing, and try and get that services, as well as many other things like prizes for raffles and stuff, and get people to contribute and bring what they know and their experience into your fundraising event. That's really good advice. So, but unfortunately, that's all we've got time for today. So thanks so much to Carmela and Chris for coming on our podcast and sharing your stories. It's been fascinating. I'm sure our listeners will be super inspired by everything you said today. I really do hope they are. If today's podcast has inspired you to take on a challenge, raise awareness, or anything else, go to our website, as I mentioned, www.musculardystrophyuk.org/get involved. And when you'll find lots of ideas, but also how to contact the community fundraising team. If you'd like to send in any suggestions for future discussions on our Muscles Matter podcast, or have any questions following today's discussion for us or our guests, please contact podcast@musculardystrophyuk.org. Please do also subscribe to our podcast on a podcast channel. That way you'll never miss an episode. Have a great day, and we look forward to next time.